Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back. Today I'm here with Paul Kocharhook with Pathway Design and Construction located in Seattle, Washington. Paul and his team, they do design, build, full-blown remodels, so really excited to have him on the story and to hear more about how he has created and built his company. So welcome to Builder Stories, Paul.
Thanks, Eric. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you give us your background? How did you get into construction in the first place, and what led you to start your company, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, how did I get into construction? Well, I kind of grew up in it, I guess. My grandpa was a contractor here in Seattle, and my cousins and I used to work for him Christmas breaks, summertime, starting at age 14. And so we had a little bit of background in that. And, if we talked about, oh, gosh, we'll start a company one day, and you never really know. Like, is that going to happen? Is it not? And I went to college thinking, gosh, I want to be a doctor. And that didn't pan out. I took chemistry. And it was too much thinking for me. So I got my marketing degree, and found that, gosh, I use my marketing degree almost every single day for just, doing these kinds of things and getting to talk to my clients. But out of college, I started working for a competitor to Home Depot, which was Eagle Hardware and Garden, which eventually got purchased by Lowe's. And I got to travel around and build actually their stores in Reno and California area for several years. So that was a pretty cool job. And then Lowe's bought Eagle out. I got laid off, moved back to Seattle, started doing commercial work. And 2001, the commercial market in the Seattle area sank, and I was without a job again. And at that point, my grandpa was starting to sell all of his properties and needed to get them kind of fixed up, get ready to put on the market. And so he asked me just to come over and start helping just get them ready. And at that point, California investors were coming up to Seattle, buying a lot of property. And many of them saw me just working around the complexes and said, hey, I bought this other house. Do you want to come over and fix it up? And I was like, well, I suppose I got nothing else going on in my life. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I probably ought to get a business license, and kind of started. So it really started from there. Just people just asking me like, hey, do you want to do this for me? And I was like, well, I suppose, right? Like, twist my arm. I got nothing else going on in my life. And from there, it just kind of bankrolled, right? Like I just started just getting more people just kind of seeing me work around homes. I didn't have any signage or anything like that. They just would come up to me and say, hey, I see you working on this house. You want to look at this house I got next door, or whatever it might be. And so that was pretty cool, just to kind of see how that kind of grew from there. And that was, I guess, very basic of kind of how I started in construction. But I would say my world really got turned upside down in 2006, 2007. So I invested in a home with a couple other investors, and we were doing flips. This was our first attempt at a flip. And about late 2007, we were starting to see the market kind of go a little bit wonky, and starting to see homes holding. And we're like, oh my gosh, like we're holding this house, like how we got to finish this thing. Homes are staying on the market a lot longer. Prices are starting to drop. And so it was like us trying to figure out, like, how are we going to distinguish our home from all these other homes that are now sitting on the market? And during that time frame, I got introduced to the American Lung Association, and kind of a strange correlation in construction. But they have this program called the Master Home Environmentalist. And from there, I got to do basically this community class, right? So it's a free class that they offer to whoever wants to take it. And essentially it's an 8-week course, and you go and you just learn about toxicity and allergies and illnesses and all these different things. Not all of them really correlated with construction, but it was really eye-opening to me to see, like, gosh, as a remodeler, I'm in people's homes on a daily basis, and I can either have a positive impact on their lives or I can have a negative impact depending on how we approach our project. So I kind of took some of that information and thought about this home that we were flipping. Like, how do we bring some of that into the project? Because so many homes were being advertised as energy efficient, and like we could be an energy efficient home, but how do we up our game just a little bit more to distinguish ourselves? And so we looked at the different products that we were putting in. If we were putting carpet in, we put in wool carpet. If we were painting, we were using no VOC paints, and a lot of this is mainstream now, but it wasn't back then.
Yeah.
And so looking at different cabinet finishes and countertops and all these things. So that's what we marketed. Was this. It was this healthy home. And we did tours and things once the home got finished and just brought people in, and like the community was totally into this thing. Like, people were talking, they were so excited about it because it was like different.
Yep.
And at that point, when we put it on the market, homes were on the market 60, 90, 120 days. And I was like, we're so screwed here. But our house sold in 7 days for the price of it. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're out from underneath this. But it was like super eye-opening. Like, oh my gosh, people really like were looking for this different aspect of health and thinking about, how to live their lives just a little bit different. And so that was a real turning point for me and how I wanted to approach our projects, kind of moving forward. It was kind of like, I guess the doctor's oath of do no harm type thing. And like, that's kind of how I envision like us working on projects for our homeowners, is how can we leave them with a healthier space than when we arrive. So it's been pretty cool to kind of see how businesses evolved. And not every homeowner that we work for wants it, but to me, it's kind of a part of our stated mission is, to really do what we can for our homeowners, whether they want it or not, right? Some of them don't, I guess, get the satisfaction of knowing that they have a healthier home.
Sure.
There's things that we just build in that we're going to do, whether it's somebody's asking for.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you really stumbled across sort of something before it became, mainstream, became a big focus.
Yeah, that's exactly. Like, and so when COVID hit, right, like that was, everybody was so concerned about like health, right?
Yep.
And that totally changed how people viewed my business and how we were already marketing it. So all the stuff was already out there that we had. Yeah, it was a huge game changer for us, especially during that point in time.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of people that kind of jumped on the bandwagon at that point and wanted to make sure they had filtered clean air and all the
Right.
all that different stuff. But like, for you to have already had a track record of doing that, I think surely that gave you a nice little boost and a leg up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your team look like today?
Yeah, so we have 12 employees, and we have lead carpenters that run all of our field projects, and then we have our obviously our office staff that supports them as well. It's really important to me that our homeowners are not just buying a remodeling project, but they're buying an experience, and that's ultimately what we're trying to provide them is a positive experience on a remodel.
And so is the, kind of, do you have an average sort of, price that you're looking for? Is there a common kind of, we typically go in and do kitchens, or like, is it the entire home? Do you do additions? Kind of what specifically would you say is like your kind of you guys bread and butter?
Yeah, kitchens and I would say additions are kind of where we're seeing a lot of projects going right now. I started with just, doing a bathroom or a small little handyman job. And it's since grown from there. And even the last couple of years, it's even been a bigger step up, where the size of projects that are coming to us are significantly larger than they would have in the past.
How
a lot
many,
of master suite additions.
How many projects? How many projects are you running at one time right now?
Yeah, so our leads will run anywhere from 2 to 3 projects usually, what in different stages
Okay.
of construction usually.
And so that's each one of your leads?
Each one of our leads, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you got 2 leads, is that what you said?
I had three leads.
3? Wow,
Yeah.
so you got
So
anywhere.
run average about 6, say probably 6 projects going at a time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How would you say like your focus has changed? I mean, obviously, sounds like early on, I assume it was kind of just you and maybe a couple people, but you've sort of really built out this team now. So, in the beginning, I suspect like everyone, every entrepreneur, you wore all the hats. But how have you kind of seen your own role change, and what's kind of your primary focus these days?
Yeah. So when I started, I was a quotation marks carpenter. I don't fancy myself a carpenter. I can get by, but that's what I was doing, and doing most of the work, and then ultimately was able to hire a couple people who were much better craftsmen than I was, and so I was able to start pulling myself out of the field a little bit, and then more focusing on the business and sales aspect. And that's pretty much what I do now. Is I focus on the sales piece, and then just kind of the overarching oversight of the company and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, we've just spent some time together in San Diego at the Remodeler Summit. How'd you get into that group?
Yeah, I've been hanging around them for a while. I got into Remodelers Advantage many years ago. I say many, I don't know. I don't even know how long ago it was. And they hammered me pretty good, and got me to get my business in shape. And then I left for many years, and then recently I've they have a production manager group that I have our production manager involved in. That's been huge for us, just to start getting insight from other people around the country. I think that was kind of the draw to it initially from me as a business owner, was just to try to get some feedback on everybody in different areas of the country, not have to worry about competition.
Sure.
But the production management piece has been huge for us, just because that was at one point kind of sticking issue, is how do we get our fields to be more productive?
Yeah. No, I mean, to manage, 6 to 9, large scale, high end remodels is certainly you can't take that lightly. And so I could imagine that joining that group. I mean, and for those of you out there who don't know, I mean, to become part of Remodelers Advantage, I mean, you have to be doing north of at least $1 million, I think, is the minimum there. But really, this is a very focused design build community that they meet regularly with you guys have like peer groups, right? And you kind of go and sort of look at each other's businesses. I mean, I think, what do you do, a couple per year where you travel around and go to each of the other companies' businesses?
Yeah, I think that's one of the advantages too. Like, you can actually go in and you can see like how other companies are running their business. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I typically find that when people sort of find themselves in these groups and these networks, it can be a tremendous boost to help them get their business organized, and really learn from all these others that are in that community. Like, I mean, that's kind of, I think, the difference between just kind of going along and doing the same thing. But like, when you get to that first $1 million, and then you get to that second $1 million, and now you're $5 million, I mean, like, it's a huge, I think a huge, opportunity to learn from others who've kind of gone that same path. So, I see a lot of, a lot of very, very talented builders in the Remodelers Advantage community.
Yeah, it's been fantastic for us to be part of that, as well as just even like going to conferences just in general, just to kind of continue to give me that boost, and to get away from the business so that I can work on.
Sure.
I find that to be a huge part for me. It's just actually like extracting myself and getting in a different headspace and a different location, just to think about things a little bit differently, have different conversations than I would normally have.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many other events do you typically go to a year?
I usually try to go to at least 2, sometimes 3 a year.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get you a Job Trade Connect this next January.
That's what I'm contemplating pretty hard on that one.
Awesome. So I'm curious. I mean, it sounds like you really kind of started and did a lot of commercial work at first, but then ended up finding yourself in the residential space. I mean, what would you say the biggest differences are between commercial and residential work?
That's a fantastic question. The biggest, so when I started in the commercial world, we were doing a lot of public works projects. So meaning we were bidding government projects, and it was always lowest bidder got the job. And my job was to help look at the plans after we were awarded the project that we underbid because we got it, right? Somebody screwed up somewhere, and that's why we got the job. So the idea is then you go in and you start writing change orders so you can make your margins on the projects. That's how those jobs are made. And it seems so backwards to me that why not have a set of plans? Why not have the relationship with the client and work together to create the project? And so when I got into remodeling and I started working with homeowners, and I was able to take them through the process of, the design process and understanding the costs and being able to make modifications if we were over budget, or giving them more if they wanted more. That process, it was just, it felt better to me that I was, in the end, I'm giving the homeowner exactly what they want for what they want to invest in their project, and giving them the information that they needed to make those decisions along the way.
Sure. And what would you say is kind of the big sort of how would you describe the differences of being kind of now like a full-blown design build, remodeler versus just kind of taking on remodel projects?
Yeah, so we do design build just a little bit different than a lot of companies do. When you think about traditional design build, you might think that they have design in-house. I don't have any designers in-house. I have designers and architects that we collaborate with on projects. These are people that we've worked with for many years. Some of them were introduced to me by homeowners that we work with or other people in the industry. Others were people that we reached out and found ourselves. But the idea for me is like finding that right fit. So personality-wise, style-wise, a couple years ago, it was like who's available because everybody was so busy, and I had homeowners who were ready to get going on our projects. So, sometimes we would just find the first available person. But that design build piece allows me to walk them through everything. And before I started the design build, I used to get a set of plans from the homeowner. Like, they were so excited, right? They handed these plans. They're like, here's what we want to do on our house, and this is what we want to put in it. And you're looking at the plans, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a really cool project. I can't wait to give you numbers on it. And then you give them the numbers, and it's 2-3 times what they want to spend. And they either don't do the project at all because they've spent all this emotional energy getting these plans ready for this dream that they had, or it goes back to the design board and we're redesigning it and there's a cost added to it. So that in turn, like, got me thinking, like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's why the design build piece was really important to me to give them that service.
So have you thought about bringing on a designer in-house, or do you just kind of...
Yeah, I have, and it's a goal here, hopefully sometime soon, because I think it allows us a little bit more flexibility with how we can expedite, right? Because as having outsourced designers, they have other clients that they work with, and am I a priority all the time? I hope so, but I don't know, right? And so thinking that if I had somebody in-house, I can push the buttons when I want to push the buttons, saying, hey, hurry up and get this one ready, or we need to have this one out the door by Friday. And we can make it happen. Whereas that's not always the case when you have somebody sourced.
Sure. That makes sense. I mean, it's, I've heard that it's been awesome when people do finally bring on that designer, but obviously, you got to have the right person be in the right position to bring that in-house.
Yeah.
Do you also have a design center or like a showroom or anything?
No, we don't. So I am, COVID, here in Washington, we completely shut down, and my lease was up during that shutdown. And not knowing what the heck was going on in the world and whether I was going to have a office ever again. And I didn't want to renew my lease. I never did renew. So my business is still all virtual.
Yeah.
I did an interview several years ago where I was like, I'll never go. It's awesome. It's nice. I got a 2-minute commute. I walk out my door. I'm in this office space that I built for myself during COVID. And it's everything that I wanted in an office. I get to test products and all those things out here. So that's perfect for me to be able to talk to our clients about it. But I think we're missing a piece culturally where when we're not getting together, we do a little bit, but it's not the same. I don't think it's being in an office.
Yeah. Do you have like regular like kind of meetings or like kind of, do you guys go like, grab lunch or do happy hours or like how do you engage everyone?
Yeah. So the field team they meet. They'll meet on site. They'll all go to a job and do their thing every couple weeks. And then once a month, or not once a month. We have once a month. We have a company meeting, an overall arching company meeting. Some of them are virtual. Some of them are in person. The ones that are in person, I walk away with a lot more energy than I do with the virtual ones. It's different.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're still, that's the hard part. So I'm in Seattle. I'm out here in Hobart, which is a 40-minute drive to Seattle. And Seattle is where we do 75% of them. And so it's hard to make the time to always have to get to places when you got other stuff that you got to get done.
Yeah,
and I got employees that are, 40 minutes to an hour north, and another one who just moved down towards Olympia, which is, a couple hour drive to Seattle. So it makes it difficult.
Yeah. So you talked about earlier kind of when you first joined Remodelers Advantage, like they really hammered you on the numbers, like helping you kind of like get organized. I mean, what would you say, like, what were some of your biggest takeaways from that? And like, what do you feel like, kind of looking back, like, what mistakes were you making going in that like, that they quickly sort of surfaced for you and how did you correct those?
Yeah. We went into our first meeting thinking we had all of our stuff it was all good. And they started looking at our numbers. These numbers they're not good. You got to get this stuff cleaned up. So I was able to hire a consultant who came in and she helped us start looking at our numbers correctly and getting things in place. The biggest thing for me is just like, I think the management of myself and the business itself, right? I was still new to all of this early on and try to figure out like, how do I run a business? How do I work with employees that are significantly older than myself? And one of them was my boss when I worked for my grandpa. And so that was a weird transition too, right? Like, hey, somebody they used to be my boss, I'm now his boss. And that was very uncomfortable at many times. So yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Let me tell you this, all right? That I would say the biggest hire that I ever made was getting an admin assistant. Like, I went to my, I think it was my third or fourth Remodelers Advantage roundtable, which is the one where we all get together. And I didn't have an admin at that point. I never had an admin to that point. And I walk in, I got there and it was down in Austin, and I get there that night, get in bed, and I wake up the next morning and I walk in to our group the next morning, and I'm all excited and happy, and I'm like, gosh, I got here. Everybody's like, where you been? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, it started yesterday. And I was like, damn, you gotta be kidding me. Like, and so at that point I was a mess. It was just an absolute mess. And I walked out of there. I gotta get my stuff straight. I need help.
Yeah.
And I need support, right? I needed more support than I actually needed help. I needed people to be able to answer the phone call when clients called, make sure that I was getting places that I needed to get on time and getting stuff, proposals out or what all this other just mundane stuff that you have to do. But you really need somebody to actually just help you.
Yeah.
That was a huge turning point for me. And once I made that decision to make that hire and I made that hire, I was just like, all this weight came off me. And I literally the day that I made the offer to her and she accepted, I was just like, felt like I could breathe. It was amazing.
Yeah. So was this person kind of local, in your area? Was it a virtual?
Yeah, she was local. Yep. She had just graduated from college. And she was actually a referral from my sister-in-law. Yeah.
Awesome. And so what were kind of some of the first projects? What were the things that you were the most excited to offload?
Just not having to answer the phone was huge for me. And then just organization, right? Making sure that bids were sent out. I could do them. But then it was okay, writing the email, sending it out, then making sure I was meeting with the client to do the follow-ups. I mean, just those things that they just take time. Yeah. But it's a necessity.
Yeah.
And I was paying myself significantly more than I was paying this other person who could do these things for me too. So that was a huge eye-opener for me too. It was because I used to think, oh, I can do this, I can do that. But I could pay somebody else and they could do it better than I did. And it didn't cost me as much.
Yeah, I think it's the typical entrepreneur, founder, we just want to do it all because we think we can do it the best. And, learning to delegate and trust others is something that I think takes a lot of practice and kind of you sort of get more comfortable over time. But, it's a hard thing to be able to do, especially early on when, you just feel like, every single detail matters, but then you find yourself so overwhelmed that you're dropping balls anyways. And so it's well, all right, maybe it's better to have somebody, even if they can only do it 90% as good, at least we'll get it done on time every time versus, kind of just continuing to pile on and carry that weight ourselves. It's something that definitely takes some time getting used to.
Yeah.
What would you say? So, that was kind of the first run at RA, but then, it sounds like you took a little time and then you kind of came back around, now really focused on the whole, production management. How has that transformed your business? What would you say kind of the biggest, changes that you've made and how's that helped the rest of your team?
Yeah. So I would say the commitments part of it and having somebody else to be committed to, right? So it's not me as the business owner. Our production manager is my brother. Okay. And so he has his commitments with his group for things that he and I have talked about that we wanted to implement, but that just who you're being held accountable to is different than if it's, just me or other people in my business. It allows him to work on the things that he saw were important, on time, on budget, right? And client satisfaction. And so how do we push getting these jobs done on time? Because he and I would talk about it, and I think maybe we didn't think about it the right way, or you just hear something from somebody else where, it's kind of like when you talk to your kids, right? Your kids don't listen to you. But somebody else says the same thing and, it makes complete sense. And they'll listen. Right.
Yep.
So it's I feel like it's kind of the same way with employees. Just hearing it from somebody else makes a big difference.
Yeah. Have you guys always kind of done, full blown kind of production schedules, using Gantt charts, things like that to kind of plan everything out? Or do you kind of just take it as you go?
No. So we started out using Microsoft Project, and then, as software's evolved, we started using some of the other softwares, and now we're using obviously JobTread to help us with that. But yeah, that is, I think, a huge part of what we do, because it's not just visible to us, but it's also visible to the homeowner. So there is that accountability
Nice.
all the way through. Because when we talk to our homeowners, we have our start date and we have our end date. The middle might get a little mushy sometimes, but ultimately we want to try to hit both of those.
Yeah. So you're giving them kind of your target, start and end date. Is that how accurate are you guys? Is it like what's like the average job length? I mean, how many months are we talking?
Yeah, we're anywhere from 3 to 9 to 12 months is kind of the size of checks. So they're pretty substantial.
And so are you pretty good at
We're not bad, yeah. And we've gotten better, I think, as we've needed to be more accountable to it. I think one of the things that has been eye-opening to all of my employees is that for every day that you're over schedule, it's exponentially costs you more, right? Like the numbers just keep growing. They don't. It's not like it is in the middle, right? Like that day costs you a lot more if you're over scheduled. So that was, I think, eye-opening to them to be able to see like, oh, well, I guess I do need to get this done on time.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like I'm just collecting a paycheck. That's not. There's something at the end for the business as well to stay healthy.
Have you been able to find like any like kind of common like trends or things that like you found that you were typically just underestimating how long it was taking, or maybe you weren't taking into account material shipping times, or just things like that, like, or was it just
so the end of our jobs, that's the hardest part, that last 2% of finishing projects, and how far does that string out? So I would say over the last six projects, that's been a huge focus on the production end, and they've done a really good job of really, where it used to be that those jobs can drag out 3 months, right? And the homeowners aren't happy. Like they're ready for you to lead. They were ready for you to lead when you told them the project was going to be done, or actually probably way back when we started, right? Like they're probably thinking that project's already done. But for us to drag that out that many more weeks, like we're still there, and it's drive times and it's all that stuff. So that part we've been able to really shrink, and that's been super helpful for us to be able just to say we're done and we're out.
Dude, how have you, I see builders struggle like all the time to, kind of find that line in the sand that it's like, listen, like, we're committing to so many rounds of changes or punch lists, or like, how do you kind of manage that final 2% to like, cause I could see, some clients who are just, gonna keep going. If you just keep letting them, I mean, they could do this for, forever.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of, how do you define that ending?
Yeah, and that was one of the challenges for us, is getting out of those projects and being able to say, because every day that we would go back, they would find something else.
Yeah.
Right. So drawing that line, okay, we're now done. So what we've done is we've said, okay, we're complete. If there's anything else beyond this date, like we'll handle it. That'll be on the warranty. Mm-hmm. Or if we are absolutely done, right? Like we have our substantial completion, and then it's 1 year from there. So we've set at that substantial completion. We'll check in with you at 11 months. If there's an emergency, feel free to reach out to us during that time, and we'll make it a priority. But if it's a small thing like a crack or a nail pop, or it's not going to cause you problems living in the house, right? We'll check in with you at 11 months, and we'll come in and do like one swoop, right? So it's maybe a day for a guy to go out there and finish all these items, and then we're done at it. Sure. And instead of going back for 2 hours one day and 5 hours another day, and it was killer.
So is this 11 months after the substantial completion?
It's substantial completion, right? Because our warranty is for 1 year. So
Okay.
substantial completion is our point where we're saying we're done with your project. Now, 1 year from now, your warranty will run.
Gotcha. Interesting. So that's, I mean, you found that that's been kind of a way for them to sort of let's go live with it for a while and then kind of circle back. And I mean, do you find that many of the things that they may have brought up, if you would have kind of kept going out there, do they just sort of fall off and they forget about them, or how often is there?
Yeah, it
No.
is. And, I think when you move back into a new home and you notice things, you're going to notice them for a couple weeks. And that we kind of approach that with our homeowners too. Like, you're going to see something and it may not be absolutely perfect like you wanted it, but live with it for a few weeks and magically it disappears.
No, that makes total sense. Well, what do you think that, like, is there any way that, like, you could, when you go into these contracts and these agreements, like, kind of set that expectation up front that, like, we're gonna kind of work through everything, and, like, are there ways that, like, they give you feedback earlier on or along the way instead of I know some contractors wait till the end of the project to address the punch list, if you will, but it might actually help do it along the way so that they don't have to kind of go and undo things that if they would have known. Like, I don't know, like, do you guys kind of have that continual feedback as you're going?
Yeah, actually, yes, we do. Thank you for bringing that up. So we will start making a completion list. I don't know. Like I said, our projects are longer, so we might start making a completion list like at a month or two before we think we're going to be finished. And we're open with our homeowners if the list either lives on a whiteboard or it lives in job tread as a document or something that the homeowner can access as a task or something. And we're open with them. Like, if you see something that is not on here, like, feel free to add it to the board and we'll look at it and address it if it needs to be addressed. So that's been helpful. So it gets it out of their head. It gets it out of our head too. It actually goes somewhere so that somebody can do something with it.
Yeah. And are you selling these jobs as a fixed price job or a cost plus?
Yeah. So fixed price is
Fixed price.
All right. I always say it's a fixed price job, and then I get to the end with my homeowners, like, well, it was fixed price for what you told me, but then there were all these change orders that along the way. And it's only I can only do so much. Right? Like, I can give you the price for what I know at that point in time.
So you talked about how you're sharing the schedule and kind of using the client portal there on JobTread. Like, how much information are you sharing, and, like, do you feel like the client kind of feels like it's a a collaborative effort? Like, is there such thing as sharing too much detail? Like, I don't know if you give, like, every single task on the schedule, or are you just kind of sharing the milestones? Like, do they get to see the daily logs and the progress photos? What's kind of what level have you found to be the right amount?
Yeah. So we were sharing. When we put together the schedule, there were many tasks underneath each one of those. I don't know what you call them, the bars, the
groups.
What do you call it there?
Yeah, just like the groups, the task groups.
Yeah. It's like the heading, right? Like for all of your finished carpentry items that you're going to be doing. And so we were sharing that. And then when we met with you guys down in San Diego, it was brought to our attention, hey, you can shrink that and only show this to the homeowner. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, that is so much better than having them see all of this detail of all of these tasks that we've assigned a date to, but we don't know that we're going to hit that date. We may knock 10 items out in one day, or we may wait 2 weeks. Right? So that's been huge for us to be able just to give them the overarching view of everything, but not all of that detail.
Yeah. And are you sharing your, like, daily logs with them, or do you do?
Yep. And that's huge. Yeah, the daily logs. I think when I talk to our homeowners from the first day that I'm selling things to them, it's like I'm telling them, hey, the communication piece, you're gonna get that from us. I want this to be a journey that is a positive experience. And you're gonna see daily logs from our lead carpenters. They may not be daily, but they're many times a week. And if something's happening on your job, there's gonna be a log for it, along with a photo and or videos attached to that as well. I think it's really important for them to just see what's going on. And it's kind of cool because our homeowners get interactive with it too. They'll be like, hey, thanks for the update. Or if they have a question, they'll be like, yeah, I noticed that. Like, what is that? So it allows us to answer questions that maybe they were thinking about, but maybe we're shy about like bringing it up or something. So it helps us circumvent issues that may come up in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm curious, like when you just kind of thinking back about your journey here. I mean, like what would you say has been some of the biggest challenges that you faced, or kind of the hardest times that you went through, like production related or just business related, sales, like what kind of thinking about that entrepreneurial journey, like what's been the hardest time on that roller coaster?
Yeah, actually, I would say recently has been a real struggle for me. So I had a bookkeeper that was with me from day one. She was amazing, and I had no idea what I had when I had her. She was bookkeeper. I've always been told that a bookkeeper is black and white, right? There's never any gray. There shouldn't be any gray with a bookkeeper, right? It's either black or it's white and there's nothing else. And that used to drive me crazy. But what I've found out is if you get a bookkeeper that stays in the gray, like you start losing vision as to where your numbers are. Yeah. And when she retired, I hired another bookkeeper, and she ended up getting sick, and I lost vision of what she was actually doing in the business. And then I hired another bookkeeper to help me fix those numbers, but it didn't work very well. So now I'm in the midst of cleaning everything up again. So I would, having a bookkeeper that you can trust and that you keep an eye on and not lose vision is, I think, really, really important when you're thinking about your business, and making sure that you have somebody you can absolutely trust 100%. Because that's your map for what your business can or can't do.
Could not agree more. It's, I see so many construction businesses who don't have a good handle on their accounting and on their books, and they just kind of think that, oh, we'll figure it out come tax time or at the end of the year. Like, it'll just sort of work itself out then. It's like, man, like that is not the right approach. Like, you need to be managing your books along the way, like, every day, just every week, like making sure that you're doing what what you need to do, doing the job costing, logging that information. Because like if you just sort of let it all build up, like it's so interesting how you kind of forget a lot of details later on, and then you can't accurately figure out what goes to what jobs, and what happened here, and why do we have twice the expense that we thought we were going to. Like, it's so important to have a good bookkeeper. And I sucks that you lost your rock star. Definitely that's never easy.
Yeah, it's all right. She retired. She earned it.
Yeah.
I would say the other piece that I found that was really important. So back in 22, February 22, I got appendicitis, and I ended up having my appendix removed, or it's actually it ruptured, and then so I was in the hospital for the entire month of February. And to have my team behind me to be able to continue to run the business, because there was no way I was running that business and with how I felt, and from a hospital bed, it just wasn't going to happen. But they were able to keep the ship afloat while I was out, and in a manner that actually, we progressed, right? We were able to continue moving forward. We didn't just even have to stand still. It was, so having people that understand certain parts of your business, they don't have to understand everything, and you can have many people who know many things just to be able to keep things afloat, because you never know. It's that hit by a bus scenario. And just in having some of that cross training, I think was really important.
Yeah, that's building a great team. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, you know, it's all about the people that you put around the table with you that you can trust and that you know will represent your company, your brand. You know, in your case, represent you. You know, it's so important that you make sure you find the right people, and you know, that's awesome that your team was there and you were able to lean on them to kind of keep things going. Because I mean, I could see some businesses if it's, you know, just you and you gotta, you know, you're trying to manage jobs and sell the jobs and then, I mean, to get taken out for an entire month, I mean, that could really cripple a lot of companies.
Yeah.
So what's the vision here? Where you want to take your business?
Yeah, I want to be on the beach, have my business just run by itself. That's the goal, really. To be able to remove myself from the business as much as I can, and have it run on its own. I think there's a lot that you know, we're doing as a business. Thinking about the health aspects of construction, and I really want to be able to educate people on why I think that that's important and how that can really benefit contractors and homeowners moving forward. Because for me, it's not just about the homeowners, but it's also about who I'm putting on their projects on a daily basis and what they're exposed to while they're doing their work.
Yeah. Are you using the same trade partners over and over, or are you having to continually find new ones? Like, how are you?
Yeah, we have a really good stable of trade partners, but we're always continuing to look and add to it, because you never know. Some of these guys are, you know, just sole proprietors, and they retire. Or we had a drywaller that actually passed away on our job, not on our job, but during our job. And then we were stuck, like, trying to get his business that really wasn't running because he wasn't there anymore to try to finish out the project. And so I think it's really important to make sure that you have people that you can trust, that you can call should you need a backup.
Absolutely. So you said you were doing the sales and estimating. I mean, have you looked to bring someone on else, like to kind of help start to take that off your shoulders? I'm just sort of thinking, like, what are the steps to get Paul on the beach here? Well,
I'm hoping we're actually starting to bring in one of our lead carpenters into the office. We're going to introduce him to estimating process. I'm going to start taking him out on some of the sales calls with me, just to see if that's something that he wants to do. He shows a lot of what's the word? He wants to do it. Right? He's excited about the opportunity, and I think he would be a good fit. He has a lot of qualities that I look for in people that I've already hired him, right? But people I would hope would kind of be the first person that they would.
Yeah, I mean, you think it'd probably be easier to backfill another lead carpenter and kind of take him, since he already knows the business, knows how you guys run and operate. You know, that might translate well to being able to kind of set the right expectation with the client and estimate the projects.
I hope so. Yeah. So he's also starting to have some health issues of just like working in the field on a daily basis, you know, just body being sore, those types of things. And it takes its toll.
Yeah.
Which is why I never want to go back out there.
Thanks. Well, I definitely like the idea of kind of having him shadow you and sort of letting him get a feel for it. Because I mean, you know, I'll say, you know, early on or not early on, but like towards kind of the middle of my first company, like my co-founder, sort of my main salesperson, like he really wanted the opportunity to kind of step up into a sales manager role. And so, you know, we felt like we owed it to him. We gave him that opportunity. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, I mean, he probably did it for about 2 years, but ended up finding out like he hated it. He didn't want to manage other people. Like, he loved sales and loved kind of being, you know, being the front and center, being the show, and like just kind of wanted to just be like, man, like, I don't want to deal with all these other people. I just want to go out and do what I do and go sell and focus on that. And so, you know, I think it is interesting that once people kind of get into a role, you know, making sure that like they really like want it and they excel at it, and that's a good fit for them. You know, so I think it'll be nice for him to sort of be able to kind of, you know, try it before he buys it, if you will, if he decides he doesn't want to do it, well, awesome. Still got that same opportunity that he had before.
Right. Yeah. I'll give you another nugget on employees here. So we had we had a carpenter that I was kind of courting for several years, and we brought him in as a trade partner. He framed up a bunch of our jobs. He actually ran them as a lead carpenter, but as a subcontractor, and finally convinced him that, you don't have to spend your weekends going out, looking at jobs, estimating projects. He was just a single guy. He was really good. And, he thought about it. I mean, it literally took a couple of years for him to come around. And once he did, he's like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. I could have my day or my nights free and my weekends free, and I don't have to worry about anything. All I have to do is go out and do what I want to do, which is frame and build these jobs. So that was huge for us to be able to find somebody that we worked with and kind of test it out along the way, and know that he could really fall right into our culture.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people they don't realize that. I mean, again, you can use someone, try them out as a sub, and then eventually kind of bring them on full time if it's a great fit. But a lot of times people just go straight to employment, and then you spend a bunch of time training them and getting them up to speed, and then come to find out, well, they weren't the right fit and they didn't do great work, and it's like now you just spend a whole lot of time and money kind of trying to make that person an employee when you might have figured that out if you would have just used them on a job or two. But you live and you learn, I guess, right?
That's right.
Nice. So, I mean, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, any other sort of general, thoughts and advice that, that you might have for others who are, still earlier on in their journey? They're, maybe even, kind of partway still in the tools, trying to get into the business. Like what do you wish you would have known, that you now know that might help someone else?
Yeah, I would say get involved in your community. That when we were slow with business, I would say the community that we were involved in rallied around us and were able to give jobs. This is before I had employees, where I might be really slow and I could reach out to people that I knew and say, hey, do you know anybody that might be looking for work? And it just allowed me to scrounge up some jobs from people that I knew or that were a warm lead, I guess. So that was really helpful for me to be able to just continue to stay in business.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I mean, again, just like with you with Remodelers Advantage. I mean, even if those out there they hadn't yet hit that million mark. I mean, there are definitely other groups out there that you can join. And again, I see a lot of times people don't necessarily want to kind of collaborate with the potential competition right there in their own market. But I mean, there are tons of these communities. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on other platforms. Where you can kind of get involved with other like-minded businesses. In similar situations. Like, it is such a great way to learn and to network and collaborate with others. Because a lot of times people think that I'm the head and I'm the entrepreneur, and like it's it can be a very lonely journey up there by yourself. But it's like it doesn't need to be. Like, that's your own choice. Like, go find your own community and build that network around you. And I think it can just be such a helpful resource, that you can tap into.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, look, Paul, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing kind of a little bit more behind the scenes of how you built your company. I mean, you guys have really built a phenomenal business, doing several million and, a year in sales there and continuing to build it. I very much hope to see one day you'll be sitting on the beach and, thinking about how, one day I wanted to be on the beach. And then, before you know it, you'll be here. Maybe you'll be building some cabanas or something like that around you. But, it's definitely something that, I think you're clearly doing all the right things. You've invested in yourself and your team. And that's what it takes, man. Like, just continual improvement, focusing on it, looking at all the little details. And, every day you get better and better, and, it's clearly working for you. So keep up the great work.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. This was fun.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.